The penultimate episode of Daredevil Born Again came out this week, the 8th episode titled Isle of Joy. And I read that this is probably the first full episode where the reboot is in effect. The showrunner, what's his name, Dario Scartapane, said that the first episode and the last two episodes were described as, quote, brand spanking new episodes, meaning not having anything to do with the previous iteration of the show, different directors and everything. There is a different feel to the show, a little visually, a little bit different of a look. I don't think it's a night and day difference, but there is a little distinction. And this episode actually has feels like it has a little more purpose than the other ones. Basically, though, we start out by addressing the relationships of our main characters, Daredevil and Kingpin. Matt's having trouble with his girlfriend, Heather. She's processing the fact and the emotions and the trauma of having killed Muse. She says she sees Muse and Daredevil basically being the same type of person, acting out violently, hiding their identities, all this type of stuff.
They're just these underdeveloped boys hiding behind masks, trying to make it look like something more sophisticated.
Even when Matt points out that Muse was trying to kill her and Daredevil actually saved her, she has a retort.
I saved me. They were both out there for themselves.
Now, I'm pretty sure I remember in that episode that Muse was basically choking the life out of Heather when Daredevil burst into the room through the window and threw a billy club at Muse, stopping Muse from killing her. At least that's how I remember it. So, we have this tension between Matt and Heather because of her take on vigilantes. And of course, Matt, he doesn't know he's Daredevil, but is known for defending vigilantes. So we got that tension. But let's ratchet it up a little more, because then we have Mayor Fisk's right-hand man, Buck, show up with an invitation for Heather and guests to the mayor's black and white ball. And Matt kind of figures out that she's getting this invite because she's been treating Fisk. And he thinks that, Fisk, the Kingpin, is just using Heather to get to him. Speaking of Kingpin, things are actually looking up relationship-wise for him. The last episode, Vanessa set up Luca to be killed because Luca wanted to make a power grab on Kingpin, so she showed her allegiance to Kingpin by doing that. In this episode, he takes Vanessa to where he's been keeping her former lover jailed. And he explains to her that, he promised he wouldn't kill Adam for her, and he didn't, but that he needs her to be in his life. He's nothing without her, and he can't stand the fact that Adam is there, keeping them apart is basically how he sees it. Well, what does Vanessa do when she's confronted with the fact that her husband basically jailed her ex-boy toy? So basically, Kingpin and Vanessa patched up the relationship by neutralizing, killing off their problems. I guess this counts as, them renewing their wedding vows in their own twisted world. Meanwhile, Matt has learned that Kingpin had Bullseye transferred to general population in prison, and that Bullseye wants to speak with Matt. If that isn't enough, he's having problems at work where a lying client makes him question the purpose of his job. He goes off to Josie's for a drink. And that's when Matt realizes while he's having this drink, this special drink of whiskey, that on the night that Foggy was killed, he ordered that special whiskey. And he only does that for special occasions, which he thinks meant Foggy knew he was going to win that big upcoming case, and that someone basically wanted to silence him. And who wanted to silence him? Well, he figures Fisk did. So he goes off to the prison to find out from Bullseye if Fisk hired Bullseye to take out Foggy.
You want to know if Fisk hired me? I can tell you, but I need to be outside. I don't trust you for a second.
Now, the thing of it is, Matt is acting like, I don't know if I can trust you, Bullseye. Matt should be able to know if he can trust him, because literally he has that ability. He detects when people are lying. That's one of his powers as Daredevil. We've seen it many times throughout the show. So why he's not thinking that way, I don't know. But, he acts emotionally and just smashes Bullseye's head in the table.
I'm not lying.
Fortunately for Bullseye, this actually gives him a chance to escape prison because it loosens a tooth, which when he's brought to the hospital infirmary, he spits into a guard's eye. Yeah, I knew Bullseye had perfect aim, but I didn't know super spitting was in his power set. Literally, you're watching the scene, you see him sitting there in the chair, and his hands aren't shackled or anything, it looks like. They're not covered up. Previously, they had them all like in these weird giant handcuff muffs, or I don't know, they were all secured or something. But here his hands are free, so why doesn't he just use his hands to kill the guard? I don't know. I don't know. So like I say, he kills the guard, escapes jail, and goes off to get revenge on the guy who manipulated him and ultimately screwed him over and got him thrown in jail. Kingpin. That's right. Kingpin and Vanessa make their grand entrance at the black and white ball. And it's here that we begin to see Mayor Fisk, coming back into his Kingpin role, asserting his power, manipulating all the rich people who were sort of snide to him before, manipulating and intimidating them into donating towards his, redevelopment project. Matt actually shows up late to the party, surprising Heather because she didn't think he was going to show up at all. He keeps trying to explain to her why she can't trust Fisk, but really to her, everything he says sounds like nonsense because he can't say, oh yeah, I know this because I'm Daredevil. As Kingpin and Vanessa are on the dance floor, Matt realizes that Vanessa was the one who actually put the hit out on Foggy and cuts in on the Fisk dance and accuses her of, orchestrating Foggy's death, which really doesn't seem to bother her much. Basically acknowledging, yeah, you got me. But also she says, have you talked to your girlfriend about the fact you're Daredevil?
What about your husband? Does he know? Did he know you had Foggy killed?
Does Heather know you're Daredevil?
Before we get any real resolution to, Matt's questioning Vanessa, he hears a sniper rifle lock into position because you see Bullseye's there from a hidden position and taking aim on Kingpin when Matt jumps in front of the bullet, literally taking a bullet for the Kingpin. The whole episode ends with Fisk, now covered in Matt's blood on his white suit, kind of like that painting. Remember the white painting that had the blood splashed on it? Takes Matt, lays him on the ground, and Heather comes over to his side, and, we fade out to red. It goes to a red screen. So that's the penultimate episode for Daredevil Born Again. Like I said, you can notice there's some subtle differences in the way it's been shot. I do feel there's a bit of a tonal change. There was more direction in this episode towards a point at the end than I felt there have been before. I have said before, I have no problem with Charlie Cox or Vincent D'Onofrio or the characters are playing. Alet Zeror, I forget her name always. Vanessa, she's doing a good job playing Vanessa. I think also she knows the character as well. Very smart thing to bring her back rather than to have some other actors play the role. The other characters in this show, I just really feel are secondary replacements to, Karen and Foggy. I finally figured out what really bothers me about Matt and Heather's relationship. It's not just they don't have chemistry. She's just a bad character. Literally, she's insufferable with all of her takes on vigilantes and the fact she equates, Muse and Daredevil to be exactly the same. It's a stupid take. It's really naive and unbecoming of someone who's supposed to be some professional. But I guess that's, what our writers need to get the point across of this show. But now that we're almost at the end of, all 9 episodes, I'm really not seeing what the point of the show is. Obviously, there's going to be, some confusion, some disjointedness in the story, given the fact there was literally a shift a third of the way through the original 18-episode order. So we have the last 2 episodes of this show trying to put together a storyline, which appears to actually involve Bullseye as a bad guy now, because we hadn't seen him before. We thought Muse was going to be the bad guy, but he got dispatched in 1 episode really quickly. There are certainly elements of it that are similar to the Netflix show, but it is pretty clear that it has been Disney-fied, and I really think that hurts the overall product of, what Daredevil has been on live-action TV. We'll have to see if the last episode really brings anything together. It's really gonna be tough, and maybe it does set up for something great in the second season, but still, no one's watching the show. It's not charting anywhere in the Nielsen's. The views are low. No one's talking about it. Is anyone going to pay attention for a second season, even if it's really, really good? I don't know, but I guess we'll just wrap it up because I said I would. So questions, comments, witticisms down below. Click all the good buttons. I'll see you guys next time.